Hello and welcome to this tutorial. Today you'll be learning how to create a dog tag in Photoshop. I will be using Photoshop CS3, however other versions will still produce a similar result. This tutorial has an intermediate difficulty level and thus requires that you have basic understanding of Photoshop, know how to enter text, and have some experience with transforming shapes. The tutorial is roughly 12 minutes long. If this has helped you in any way, please subscribe. It's free. So the first thing you want to do is create your Photoshop document. I already created mine and it's a 300 by 300 image. Next you're going to want to fill your background layer with a dark gray. I already chose my dark gray, so I'm just going to hop over to my paint bucket tool and fill the background with this dark gray. Next we're going to add some sort of a texture. So we're going to use a filter. We're going to head over to our filters and choose noise, add noise. And we're going to add about 3.5% of noise. We're going to make sure the distribution is uniform and monochromatic is selected. Click OK. And we're going to blur this. We're going to go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and give it a 2 pixel blur. And click OK. Now we have a texture. Next we're going to create a new layer, and we're going to be creating our actual dog tag on this new layer. So we're going to hop over to our shape tools over here, and we're going to be using the rounded rectangle tool today. I chose a radius of 15 pixels, but whatever you choose is up to you. Just keep in mind that the larger the radius, the more rounded the edges will be. Well, not the edges, but the corners will be. And make sure you select black as your color or any other color that's distinguishable from the background. Then we're just going to click and drag, and we're going to let go when we are happy with our shape. And we're going to rasterize this layer. So right click, rasterize layer. And we're going to also center this layer, so we're going to select all, Control A, center vertical centers and align horizontal centers, and deselect, Control D. And I may actually move this dog tag down a bit. I'm going to be using my arrow keys, but you can use whatever you want. Now we're going to apply our actual colors to this dog tag to make it look like it's actually made out of metal. So we're going to open up our layer styles menu, double click, and we're going to use a gradient overlay. We're going to use 4 color stops for this, so we're going to click 2 times in this gradient to add 2 more color stops. And we're going to be using a dark gray to a light gray to a dark gray and to a light gray. Some grays may seem too dark, so you can just change it up. And you may want to brighten some of them if you want. Notice we're using grays for all of this. Don't add any hue or don't add any color to this. Just use gray. And click OK. And leave everything else as default. Now we're going to apply our actual layer effects. To do that, we're going to create a new layer. We're going to select both our new layer and our shape layer, and we're going to merge them by pressing Control E. And then we applied our layer styles. Now we're going to want to duplicate this layer, so Control J, and then make sure we have our new layer selected, our new duplicated layer. We're going to go to Filter, Noise, Add Noise. We're going to be using a 3.5, actually no, we're going to be using 4.8%, and once again the distribution will be uniform and monochromatic is selected. And then this will be our actual texture layer for our dog tag to give it a metallic texture. Now we're going to give this a motion blur, so we're going to go to Filter, blur, motion blur. We're going to leave the angle at -90 or 90 degrees, makes no difference, and use a low distance. I'll be using 12 pixels, and click OK. Now we want to get rid of this blur that actually made its way outside our actual dog tag. So we're going to be using the selection of layer 1. So we're going to press and hold Control and click the icon of layer 1. And we're going to inverse this selection by going to Select, Inverse. And then make sure layer 1 copy is selected, and we're going to hit Delete. And now that's clear. Now we deselect. Control D or select deselect. Next we're going to add a stroke inside this actual dog tag to give it more of a real feel. So to do that, we're going to select layer 1 once again, Control and click the icon. We're going to make this on a new layer, so create a new layer. And we're going to shrink the selection. To do that, we're going to go to Select, Modify, Contract. And we're going to contract this by 3 pixels. Click OK. Now notice the selection got smaller. Now we're going to stroke this selection, so we're going to go to Edit, Stroke. We're going to give it a 1 pixel black stroke, and click OK. And we're going to deselect, Control D. Now this black is obviously too dark, so we're going to lower the opacity. 30% looks good. Next we're going to add our actual hole where a metal chain would usually go through. So we're going to use our elliptical marquee tool up here. And we're going to select a circle, and of course hold Shift to get a perfect circle. And you can move this around with your elliptical marquee tool. Center it to the best of your ability. And then select layer 1 copy, hit delete, and select layer 1 and hit delete. Now while keeping this selected, we're going to expand this selection. So we're going to go to Select, Modify, Expand, and we're going to expand by 3 pixels. Click OK. And we're going to stroke this again on a new layer. So select layer 2, then click New Layer. That way the new layer appears on top of layer 2. Then we'll go to Edit, Stroke, and give it a 1 pixel black stroke once again. We're going to deselect, and we're going to lower this opacity to 30 as well. Alright, now our dog tag is starting to take shape. Next, all we want to do is add text to our dog tag. So we're going to do this on a new layer. Okay, I added my text now. Now we're going to give it layer styles to make it look like it's actually engraved in metal. So we're going to double click our first text layer. And we're going to add, first we're going to give it a color overlay. And we're going to choose a dark gray. Something about that looks good. And we're going to give it an inner shadow. So we're going to click that option. First we're going to keep it at 100 for now, and change the blend mode to normal. Make sure the shadow color is black. And we're going to give it an angle. Well, you can play with your angle depending on how you have your text angled. In this case, 120 degrees doesn't look too bad for me. And you can play around with the size, distance, and choke percent. Its default actually doesn't look too bad. I'm going to go with 3 pixels. And then the opacity looks fine too, and we're going to click OK. And then we're also going to apply the same stuff to our other text layer. You'll have to do the same thing if you have more than one text layer. But it's actually quite simple, so we're just going to right click our layer, copy the layer style, and paste it to our other layer. And we have the same effect. Now all we want to do is add a metallic necklace or some sort of thing to actually hold this dog tag. So to do that, we're going to be using an elliptical shape. So we're going to be using our ellipse tool. Make sure you're working on a new layer. And you're just going to drag out an oval. And we're going to rasterize this as well. And we're going to give this a dark gray to light gray gradient. And you can transform this, Control T, to whatever you like. And then all you have to do is duplicate this to create a chain link necklace of some sort to hold your actual dog tag. So I've completed the necklace. All you have to do is basically duplicate that one little shape many times, and also transform it around to rotate it or whatever, and you can actually get a pretty nice looking necklace. I grouped my layers that I used for my necklace together in one little group just to clean up my layers panel a bit. And I also added a drop shadow to my layer 1, which is our actual dog tag, just to make it stand out a bit more. And that's all for this tutorial. Thank you for watching, and if this helped you, please subscribe.